Well, we will be expanding the conversation by piggyback on the NNPCL, of course, Dangote refinery issue, which is what I call camera one, which is more like our bread and butter. If anything goes wrong with the oil sector, God forbid, that's all I will say. Mr. Christian Chukwu, Economist, MD, Cowrie Asset Management Limited, joins us from via Zoom. Mr. Chukwu, I don't know why you're smiling.
Because you have Christian me, Christian Chukwu.
Sorry, Johnson Chukwu, my apologies.
So that's why I was laughing. So you want me to take him quickly, eh?
My sincere apologies. That was a mistake. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, maybe help us make sense of what is playing out between the NNPCL and Dangote refinery. It started with a quality battle. Now it has shifted to a price battle. We don't know what more battles we have ahead of us. So on one hand, we're celebrating. On the other hand, we're looking at all the ping pong between both of them as to why prices are high. Nigerians are saying, how come imported products are now cheaper than the ones we produce here? And then Dangote refinery is saying, look, the federal government is going to make a statement, but NNPC has come out to make a statement and even given a breakdown of how much they bought, how much the end user, like us, the consumers, will get, depending on the part of the country we're in. So maybe your quick intervention of what is playing out, because Nigerians are getting a bit confused. As an economist, what do you see? What can you interpret? How do you characterize what is going on?
Well, what I would say is that there's a lot of confusion in what's going on today, principally because it looks like there is a media campaign, obviously with motives that I can't really explain, because some of the issues that have been thrown to the public are things that they could have resolved. Take, for instance, the statement that was issued by Dangote yesterday, saying that the claim by NNPC was false. And NNPC came out this morning to give a breakdown how they arrived at their 898 naira per litre as a cost from Dangote, which said that they bought Platt at $690 per metric ton, which amounts about 55 cents per litre, and that they are also paying a premium of $46 per metric ton. And they were very specific on the quality of the product, which is 10 ppm, which is 10 parts per million per metric ton, per million metric ton. So, and the issues now are we going to get a regulated price, which had been announced earlier that NNPC will be the sole off-taker, and so as to make sure that, I think that was announced by the chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service, to ensure that we have a stable that Nigerians can afford an increase in price. The publication by NNPC this morning says that prices will be determined by cost, it will be cost reflective. And NNPC gave a detailed breakdown of how they arrived at even 950 naira per litre in Lagos, which includes the NDPRA fee of 1%, which is about 8.99 naira per litre, which you add to the 989 naira per litre. Then they also have a cost of 15 naira per litre for logistics, and then they have a 97 kobo per litre for which they call the expression cost, and then you have the margin, the trader's margin of 26 naira 48 kobo. So these are implying that in Lagos, pump price will be about 950 naira to a litre. This is contrary to the earlier pump price about 855 naira per litre. And of course, if you look at the graphics you are showing there, a place like Borno will buy a litre of product for 1,019 naira. So in effect, we are now dealing with a fully deregulated premium motor spirits market, which is now fully cost reflective. Which I said, I'm also confused because I wouldn't know. I think this, if we have to go by this latest publication, it then means the price of petrol had been fully deregulated, and in as much as NNPC is supposed to be the final off-taker, the sole off-taker, it then means that even marketers, oil marketers can be free to import from any source that is market competitive, because basically it's going to be about market pricing.
Interesting. So I want us to look through that breakdown again, and I want to find out, while we may not know why there's this back and forth, this media war, while we may not know it, we certainly know that we do not need it at this point, because there's an existential issue right now, and I think we all should work together rather than at cross purposes. So when you do the breakdown, $0.52, that's 52 cents per liter, comes to 842. And when we did the math, we realized that the exchange rate for that was 1,620 naira to $1. So is this one, international price just playing out? You know, what you get crude at is what naturally will translate into what you refine at eventually, because you're buying in dollars and then your whole process is also in dollars as well. That's why it comes to this. So is that like a globally acceptable pricing, or it is the exchange rate that is the issue? Because I asked Ipman earlier on if they think this is fair, because it's been said that NNPC Limited has been getting some sort of, subsidy shortfall for the forex that is used to buy petrol. That's why they're able to present it at a lower price. So is it fair to also use 1,620? So is the challenge with the conversion rate that was used, or the pricing? Is it possible to get it even cheaper? I hope you catch my drift, Mr. Chukwu.
Yes, I do. I've actually said this at different fora, that the challenge we have with the pricing of premium motor spirit, or PMS, or fuel as we call it, is coming from exchange rate depreciation or devaluation. If you look at when the president made an announcement that subsidy is gone, NNPC template then implied that they will be using 750 naira to $1 to import fuel. So if you look at the international plat price and then you do an exchange rate of 750 naira to $1, that's how they arrive at the price that was fixed for fuel as at that time. Today, we're dealing with an exchange rate that had depreciated materially, almost 100% from what it was when the exchange rate was harmonized in June last year. And so that means that the greatest pass-through on the pump price is the exchange rate. So if the exchange rate, as we look at what they have used to arrive at the 950 naira to a liter, is actually 1,637 naira per dollar. And it then means that if exchange rates should appreciate back to 1,000 naira to $1, then we should have some respite. We should have the price of the pump price reduced. Because the truth is that even when we begin to sell crude from 1st of October to Dangote in naira, it will still be at the ruling exchange rate conversion rate. So if exchange rate gets to 2,000 naira, pump price could go beyond even the indicative prices they published this morning. So we need to deal with, and I have also always said that, dude, we should focus our narrative on how do we improve the exchange rate. And the only surest route to improve the exchange rate is improve crude production. If we improve crude production and we're able to export materially higher volume of crude than we're exporting today, we will have the foreign exchange earnings that will help us stabilize the exchange rate and possibly lead to some level of appreciation. In the absence of a major improvement in crude price, in crude production, we're going to be dealing with this issue of naira depreciation in the foreseeable future.
I'd like to stay with this, Mr. Chukwu, because of, the explanation provided by the technical committee when it announced that NNPCL would be off-taking petrol from Dangote. It had said that would be paying for crude to Dangote in dollars by October the 1st, and in exchange, NNPCL will be off-taking petrol from Dangote, and that would also be paid for in naira. But in the last clarification provided by the NNPCL this morning, NNPCL said for the September offtake, it is paying Dangote crude for petrol in dollars rather than in naira. Why the contradiction? And then some would say Dangote refinery is a private investment, and as such, because the market has been deregulated, it should determine its own price. Why is it waiting for the technical committee to announce the price? What do you understand to be the reason for these contradictions?
Okay, in the first place, if we look at the announcement between yesterday and today, you will actually recognize that the announcement by the technical committee has been suspended or had bypassed. But let's even look at the components of the announcement. They said from 1st of October, NNPC will begin to supply about 357,000 metric tons a day to Dangote refinery, and that will be priced in naira. And they also say that the pricing would be at the ruling exchange rate. But as it stands today, Dangote refinery had been importing fuel from crude from US, although they have some allocations from NNPC in the past. I think about 48 million metric tons, according to the publication last from I saw. But those allocations must have been priced in dollars. And as well as any import of crude that Dangote had made earlier from US or from any other country must have been done in dollars. So it just behoves on Dangote and NNPC that they call in transactions based on existing crude that was imported by Dangote and refined will be priced in dollars. Simple is in other words, Dangote won't be in a position to pay back the dollar loans or the dollar obligations it would have incurred to import the crude. So I clearly understand that any transaction prior to the 1st of October timeline for the commencement of crude supply in Naira and lifting in Naira will be priced in dollars. So there's certainly no contradiction to that.
All right. Just one more question on this particular Dangote issue before we go to other macroeconomic conversations. And that has to do with the statement that was made by NNPCL earlier that off-taking will be based on the fact that if the market prices are higher than the pump prices in Nigeria. So I needed you to explain that statement.
Well, I think that's the logical thing that based on what we have seen today, like I said earlier, the plant, which is based on 10 ppm, that's a particular specification that means very low sulfur content, is as at September 13th was priced at $690 per metric ton. So for us to have a competitive market where there is no excessive profiteering, then it simply means that importers or consumers will be open to all the markets. So Dangote should be free to say to Nigerian consumers and also free to sell to any foreign consumer. And that implies that NNPC or anybody who is trading in refined petroleum products should also be free to import or buy from any source that is cheaper. Otherwise, you and I, as consumers, we are going to suffer severe price extortion, because if you are not open to market and the prices are determined in the absence of subsidy on a single supplier, you will have a problem of monopoly. And I'm sure Dangote wouldn't want to be caught in that space where Nigerians will accuse him of profiteering through his monopoly position. Because I want to believe he wants to be patriotic and he wants to ensure that Nigerians get the full value of having petroleum products refined locally. But for that to happen, the market dynamics must have as checks and balances. That means the market should be open to anybody who is supplying to us at lower prices. And that will also compel or encourage Dangote to be most efficient in terms of importation of his feedstock from sources that are cheaper and in terms of efficiency in the refining activity operation.
We can talk all day about this. And again, looking at how this conversion was done, different exchange rates were used eventually. So for the Platts 10 ppm, the exchange rate that was used was 1,620. Then for the premium, the exchange rate that was used was 1,872. When they wanted to convert the eventual Dangote refinery PMS country pricing, they used 1,634. So 1,637, which was quoted on top, was never used at any point, even to get the final pricing. So there's still a lot of questions to ask about this. And you wonder what exactly is going on. What we want is petrol, and we want it in the most transparent and efficient manner. But let's talk about how this affects the economy, because this is just a major part of a larger picture, quite all right. So we're expecting inflation figures. We're waiting to see how the CBN would respond. We saw trade figures, Nigeria doing a surplus, but when you look deeper, you see that it's just a major giant responsible for all of that. But then you look at the pockets of Nigerians and their purchasing power. It's even worse. Even though the government is saying that things are better, the figures are looking better than when it came in. What do you see, Mr. Chukwu, when you look at all of these figures coming together, particularly for the pocket of Nigerians?
Well, you and I, Nigerians, I think the first question asks is, how do we feel? I guess every Nigerian is worse off with the current situation we are facing the country. We're living today with a cost of living crisis, and it affects each and everybody in the country. If you dwell on the issue of the trade figures, foreign trade figures, you observe that last year, second quarter of last year, total import was 6.3 trillion naira. Total export was 6.4 trillion naira. In the second quarter of this year, total imports dropped to about 12 trillion, while total export moved to 19 trillion. And all of them are driven by one factor. The doubling of total imports was driven solely by exchange rate devaluation. The same thing applies to total exports. But the reality, if you dig further and you actually adjust for exchange rate movement, you will observe that in terms of actual imports decreased because Nigerians can no longer afford to consume basic necessities of life. And that also explains it's a lot of other factors that have happened in the country, including the existence of foreign manufacturing outfits in the country, because our purchasing power has been so badly eroded that most of us can't afford basic necessities. So the people who are importing these goods have no motivation to import them if they are unable to sell what they have in their shelf floors or in their warehouses. And that's what's giving an illusion that our trade position has improved. What we are witnessing is that our standard of living has deteriorated to the extent where we can't afford basic things. And we must put that in the context of it. And it is not good for the economy, because that's also why a lot of foreign investors are exiting the country. We have the likes of P&G, Procter & Gamble has left, GSK has left, Guinness has left, and you have PZ has also left. So we need to actually focus on how do we revive the economy so that Nigerians will have the capacity to consume and encourage productive activities and the growth of the economy and create more values.
Well, Mr. Chukwu, further on the economy, FDC had projected that inflation would drop by about 2% this month. We're wondering how that would be possible, particularly following the announcement by the NNPCL of a price adjustment to 858 naira per litre and a further increase with the offtake of product from Dangote refinery. So are you projecting, do you agree that there would be a reduction in inflation figures or there would be, a spike, even also in food inflation to be announced soon?
There's what we call lag effect when you measure inflation of economic data. The price adjustment we're witnessing today may not have been captured by the Bureau of Statistics in their measurement of inflation. So we begin to see this impact when we look at the October inflation and all the rest, and so going forward. So you may see a minor decline in inflation, not because current prices have adjusted, but because the timing of the data collection was prior to the adjustment we are all witnessing today. But now on the issue of food inflation, we're at the peak of the harvest season. The food inflation had dropped about 40.7% in July to about 39% in August, was driven largely by food production, improvement in crop production. But that is always temporary, because by the time you are through with the harvest season and you go back to the planting season, you realize that the minor improvement you saw in food production will be eroded because we don't even have the storage capacity to store excess food that is produced during the peak of the harvest season. But most importantly, we have not addressed the issue of insecurity in the major food belts of the country, the North Central, the Northeast, and the Northwest. Until we address that, we're not going to see a consistent improvement in food production. And as long as food production does not improve, inflation is not going to improve on a long-term basis. We need to address food production for us to have improvement in food inflation. But another component of inflation is the core inflation, which will be impacted negatively by the increase in the pump price of fuel, which has been translated to increase in transport costs. So you're going to see an uptick in measurement for transport costs, and you're going to see an uptick in measurement for energy cost. So these factors will ultimately flush into core inflation, which we should expect to materially increase when we go back to the month of October.
All right. One of the questions I want to find out, are you worried about the way the handlers of the economy and the government and what they, maybe let me rephrase it differently. Are you worried about what they celebrate as a win? Because it's very concerning. And I'll give you an example. I know that the government has come to celebrate our balance of payment. So for me, if we talk about remittances, simply put, if someone is living abroad and I send money to my mother in Nigeria, and that money came to about, maybe I sent £1, and it used to be 1.5. I send that pound, now it's now 2,000. Naturally, I'll be more motivated. So I don't know whether is that something to celebrate. We just did the dollar subscription, or the bond that was issued by the government is oversubscribed, I think $400 million or so. And government is celebrating that. Look, this is because of the confidence that the people have in the government to be able to repay and all of that. But our debt has invariably increased. Now trade surplus is being celebrated. This is money illusion. Everybody knows that exchange rate is playing out because how do you move from 6 trillion or so to 19 trillion in 1 year without productivity? So if these are the wins that are being touted as victory, that's why our policy is working. Are you worried about the managers of the economy and how they are thinking about what success really is?
Well, I think I wouldn't say I'm worried, but because I seem to understand or assume that I can hazard a guess into their motivation. It's all about creating an image, an illusion of success when there's actually no success. And obviously their perspective in viewing the economy is coming from a very narrow premise. You know, for you to run an economy at the macro level, you need to have a bird view of the economy. A tunnel view, if you look at one narrow premise, and then you make your judgment on that, not recognizing the multiplicity of impact of that very narrow perspective you are looking at. I think because we have a reasonable number of knowledgeable people, including all of you in the studio, that have actually presented this the way you did, the managers of the economy, and particularly the handlers, need to appreciate that Nigerians recognize where there is growth, where the GDP is growing, where there is an expansion in employment, where productivity is improving, and contrary to the presentation they are trying to make to us, we are all, if you tell any Nigerian that his condition has improved compared to what it was last year, the person will pinch himself and ask whether something is wrong with you, or because I don't think any Nigerian is deluded or deceived the fact that our conditions have worsened. So if the government focuses on addressing the core issues, which I mentioned, let's address the issue of food production by addressing the issue of insecurity, address the issue of crude production by addressing the issue of pipeline breaches, stealing of crudes to encourage improved crude production. We're going to be dealing with the fundamental issues. I think the government should need to divert its attention from image laundering and focus on the heavy lifting that will help us stabilize the economy. Ultimately, if the economy is growing, they don't need to go on engage any trumpeter to tell us that our conditions are improving.
Mr. Chukwu, I'm happy that is coming from you, because sometimes it comes from us. It looks like we're mindless critics of the government. But if we see the numbers improve and reality is in our face and we see that it's corresponding, you cannot say anything different. We base on facts, and facts is quite sacred. But I must thank you. And let me say it again, Johnson Chukwu, to repair the wrong. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, economist and MD Cowries Asset Management Limited. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
We will shift gears after the break. We'll bring you updates. We told you that a lot has been going on as far as brothers and sisters in the north are concerned with the flood. So we'll focus on Kaduna and Maiduguri. What is the latest update? We'll bring you that after this break. Join us again.